Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. We have a webinar here today with Nicole I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your surname. Yamanaka from Physique. She's strength and conditioning coach and an owner of a gym. She'll tell you more about that. And she'll talk about strength training for runners and how that can help you in your program. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you. All right, I'm coming through okay, guys? You can hear me? Yep, okay, cool. Since everyone's on mute, and it is like a nice little intimate crowd, if you guys have questions as I'm going along, I'd say just throw it in the chat, and then I can pull it up and weave it into our little talk tonight. Or if you want to save it all for the end in questions, that's totally fine. So as Jenny said, my name is Nicole Yamanaka, and I am the owner of Physique Health and Fitness, and we're located in False Creek. So I've been there for coming up for 15 years now. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in kinesiology from SFU, so I'm a local kid. And yeah, my most of my career has been working in clinics, big gyms. I did a stint at a pharmacy, which isn't really related, but it's health. It's all kind of related. So I have volunteered as a run leader with the Sun Run clinics in the past. I did it for about 5 years, so no stranger to running. I've done lots of 10Ks, but I personally have never done any of like the half marathons or marathons. Have trained a lot of clients who, marathons, half marathons, triathlons, the whole shebang. And in that, I've also seen my fair share of injuries from running. So yeah, something that's kind of near and dear to my heart is helping people prevent injuries, just because that's the worst. You know, like you're going along 8-9 weeks in, and then, you know, you've got this thing that you're working towards, and then you get set back. And it's kind of heartbreaking, right? I know it sounds so dramatic. It's so heartbreaking, but it does, right? It's frustrating to be injured. So like I said, it's kind of near and dear to my heart to help runners stay strong and be able to just keep going through their training with their colleagues and stuff like that. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of strength training, so I'm just going to start from the baseline and just answer the question, what is strength training? For some people, this might conjure up images of gyms, bicep curls, chin-ups, lots of grunting, lots of sweaty people, selfies, that kind of a thing. And that does fit into some, you know, the way some people treat strength training. But what we're going to focus on is the kind of exercises that are beneficial to runners that can be done in the comfort of your home. And especially with COVID, you know, you might not be interested in going to your gym or your community center right now for strength training. So I've picked exercises specifically that you can do at home with minimal equipment, because equipment is also really expensive right now. Surprise, surprise. I think I saw someone selling a set of dumbbells for like $80. And it's just, why would anyone try to get that kind of money from someone? Anyways, that's economics. We'll talk about that later. So scientifically speaking, when someone's trying to train to improve strength, we're looking at basically applying resistance to your movements. So it could be weights or body weight. And we want enough resistance so you have a training effect. There's a positive outcome. So you're going to see things like do this exercise, 8 to 12 repetitions, 2 to 3 sets, 2 to 3 times a week. Pretty standard. So if you were to Google this, you'll see these training programs that have these kind of numbers. The thing that's the most important about these numbers is when someone says 8 to 12 reps, we actually need you to go to what we call fatigue. So if I've got my bicep, I've got my dumbbell, and I'm like, 13, 14, 15, 26, 27. If it's that light that I can do that many reps, this is not an effective resistance piece. But if we can imagine that this is a larger dumbbell and I'm like 8, 9, like I'm working it, and then I'm like 12, I'm done. That's kind of the sweet spot. So that's what strength, we're moving into actual strength training when you hit fatigue. So here's just some of the technical bits about strength training. That's why the grunting, right? People, when you think about the grunting, it's because people are lifting heavy, that they get fatigued. So I will stop talking about the science of strength training for now. We can, like I said, answer questions later about that. So the primary goals, the reason we want to do it, I'm going to go super sciencey on you guys. The outcomes and the goals of strength training are to allow you to increase maximal force, production, power, and explosion. So what does that mean? It just makes you a faster runner. Strength training also helps you increase your lactate threshold. So lactate is that lactic acid burn, right? If you increase your threshold for that, you've probably had that experience where you're running and you're like, oh God, it just burns. So you can continue to push through that for longer, as opposed to, oh, it burns. I think, oh, I need to kick back and slow down the pace a bit more. Strength training also helps you increase your neuromuscular efficiency. So basically, the nervous system and your muscles they gel a bit better. They come online. It helps you improve stability, so your dynamic movement. So that improves running economy. So you're not putting as much effort into executing a movement. So you save energy, right? You're not, you can go farther on the same amount of energy invested into that movement. So it makes you a stronger, faster, and a better runner. And the other part of it is it helps prevent injury, right? So if we're helping you create greater stability, if we're addressing imbalances, running is one of those things where there is a skill to it. Some bodies just take to it supernaturally and they just like efficiency machines, and some people are just more, like you've seen those videos where there's like the 6 styles of running, and one person's like running like this and one person's sort of like the Phoebe, and she sort of runs with her arms and legs all over the place. Strength training helps sort of just streamline this so that you just have greater efficiency and prevents injuries. So in terms of the top 5 exercises, I have picked, like I said, I've picked ones that you can do at home, minimal equipment, and with a focus on the lower body, legs. I've also included a core and a couple of upper body, so those are like bonus exercises. I'm a huge fan of customization. So an individual could come to me and say, give me a running program, and their twin brother or sister might get a different running program, strength training program. But that being said, I've pulled elements that are sort of foundational. Whether you're a beginner to running or beginner to exercise, or you're comfortable in the gym or a good runner, these are sort of exercises you will see across the programs. So I thought what I'll do is I'll tell you the exercise, I'll show it to you, and then I'll go through a couple of pointers. So if you've never seen it before, then you get that, oh, okay, that's what XYZ is. And if you have done it before, then like I said, feel free to ask questions about the technique that I'm demonstrating, and I can break that down a little bit more. So I'm just going to do a little moving stuff. Let's talk about these exercises. I should play a game. I should be like, if you can guess what exercise I'm going to do, then you get like a prize or something. Okay, so everyone, all right, can you see? Kind of see me. I'm just going to do that. No, that. All right. Okay, so the first exercise is squats. So that's pretty You're basically looking for feet are approximately hip width apart, toes are pointing forward, and we're just basically, imagine sort of going into a skier's tuck position. So we want to make sure that the knees are pointing forward, they're not rolling out or collapsing in. Sometimes new people aren't aware of knee positioning, and so it kind of comes in a bit. From the side, basically it just looks like we're taking our hips, we're going to push them back. Knees will move forward slightly. You just don't want to feel like you're rolling back onto your heels or onto your toes. You want the weight distributed pretty evenly through the front and the back of your foot. Abs are in, posture is nice and tall, and basically squeezing through the glutes to bring you up into an upright position. So the thing about squats is we're basically working quads, glutes, hamstrings, calves. So all of the things that are involved in running. I think you guys can do like a hands up motion. Who has squats in their strength training routine? Yay, all right. Okay, so a good variant for a squat then, if it is something you already do, is a sumo squat. So with that one, just take the stance a lot wider, toes slightly point out. So everything's the same with the upper body, abs are in, and we're just gonna bring it down into a wider position. The whole goal of the sumo squat, so same thing, looks very similar from the side, right? Just got that wide position. The sumo squat allows you to work your adductors. So inner thighs, really important in helping to stabilize the knees. And then you actually get a little bit more glute med, glute minimus action. So again, hip stabilization, really important with running. All right, any quick questions about squats? DNA? All right.
Yeah, there you go. Muting myself. So if you're someone who is familiar with squats and have done them in your training program, but feel like 8 to 12 reps is not hard enough, like you can do that without feeling fatigue, how would you propose that they make them harder?
So if you have dumbbells at home, obviously the best way is just you can hold them right by your side. If you have a small human at home, you can carry them, right? Backpack style. If you have a dog, that works too, right? Sometimes having them right in the front. It does change the mechanics, whether the weight's in the front or the back. However, you're still looking for all of those cues. You want your glutes to fire. You want to notice your muscles, right? If you're like, I don't have any of that, but I'm super comfortable with squats, jump squats are a really good option. So you're just going to add a little bit of explosive power to that. And again, this is something when you're like, I'm super comfortable with squats. I know my knees are good. So the jump squat, if basically, yeah, good, right? You don't have to make the sound effect, but it just makes it more fun. Does that answer your question? Cool. All right. The next one is lunges. Everyone loves lunges. So basically, now, this one, I'm doing a forward lunge. Some people sort of know this as a static movement. You've got the feet 3 or 4 feet apart, and you're just dropping down. So if you are already doing static lunges, fantastic. Then what we want to do is introduce a dynamic component, reduce stability. You have to use your core a little bit more. So try forward lunges. You can try reverse lunges. You can do what we call a pendulum lunge. So that would be 1 forward, 1 back. Don't have that much room in my little study here. Does anyone have questions about lunges? Okay, everyone's a pro. Perfect. Okay, now I'm like out of breath because I'm running back and forth. I swear to God, I'm not out of shape. Clamshells. This one is the bane of a lot of rehabilitation exercises. Okay, so clamshells, basically, what we're trying to do here is hit stabilizers to the hip. So not quite your glute max, the glute med, glute min. So it looks really simple. Start by side lying, and I like to put the hand on the hip where my thumb lands. That's kind of the muscle group. And it just looks like this. So the reason this is sort of the bane of a lot of rehab programs' existence is it looks really simple. And if you're doing it wrong, it is very simple to do. As a trainer, we always have our hands on people. So it's always helpful when someone's poking you in the muscle group that you're trying to use. So that way you're like, if I don't feel the muscle working, I feel someone's finger jabbing me. And then they at least know where to focus their brain. So clamshells, I would say, if you want, you can always reach out to me and I'll either shoot a video breaking it down more, or I can find maybe one online already that's, you know, quite detailed. But I would say
have a quick question. It's Carrie.
Yeah, no problem.
So when you were doing your clamshells and you had like your hand on your hip forward, so say your forward groin, I don't know, hip flexor area, I sometimes get a lot of pain there. So not in the glute, just the back of my hip, but in the front.
In the front, okay.
Could be a reason why?
Yeah, so sometimes for some people, this muscle, there's a, you know, the IT band, this is sort of the runner's knee thing. People and the physios are like, oh, you have IT band syndrome because things have tightened up. There is a muscle that kind of sits slightly to the front of that joins in called your TFL. That guy likes to take over the job for a lot of other muscle groups. So sometimes when someone's doing this little guy in the front just kind of seizes up and says, I'll do the work even though the angle's all wrong. So basically I would say do the hand trick and then take your thumb and sort of just poke yourself in that high back hip pocket kind of a feeling and see if you can palpate. And if you're like, okay, I feel muscles moving there, and then your brain will also go into this sort of back hip area. Give that a shot, because usually it's just your brain has sort of wired itself to think about the front of the hip, which is that muscle group that's sort of seizing up on you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to put my email in here. So if you try it and you're like, I'm still stuck, just email me, and I'm super happy to continue to work through that with you. Okay, the hip bridge. I like this one too. My favorite exercises are the ones that people do wrong. Not saying that you guys do them wrong. It's just that there's just so much to it that sometimes people are like, they have questions about it. So the hip bridge, if you have no back pain, this is probably an easy exercise for you. It's what it looks like. Where it goes wrong is when people say, oh yeah, I can feel my lower back. We actually want glutes and maybe a little bit of hamstring to be doing the work. So the number one thing you want to think of here is, are you aware of your glutes firing? Your lower back is just going for a ride. It shouldn't be doing any work at all. So the tip that I have for people, I have two. Number one, see if you can actually, I tell clients, I go, pretend I've given you this magic walnut. You're going to put that walnut somewhere between your cheeks, give it a bit of a squeeze, and then it just takes their brain and puts it into the right area. And if they give it a squeeze and I say power the lift through the squeeze of that walnut, so that just puts their brain in the right spot. The other part of it is pelvic positioning. So if I have my pelvis here, so you can kind of see where I've arced the back a little bit, as opposed to back is a bit more flat. I actually don't go as high when my pelvis is in the correct position when I'm squeezing glutes. Whereas if I'm doing it wrong and I'm using my back, it turns into sort of this rib cage thrust. And it's a slight difference, but if you have any back or disc issues, it'll be noticeable. Your body will tell you, I hate this, and I don't like doing this exercise. All right, and the fifth exercise is basically core. So side plank or hip lifts. So the side plank is a stabilization exercise using the obliques. So level 1 of a side plank is from the knees. So we're assuming we don't have any shoulder injuries or issues. So obliques on the side closest to the floor, they're contracting to bring it up. Level 2 from the feet. And then the hip lift is a dynamic version of that, right? So just drop the hips to the floor and then lift up towards the ceiling. So it's kind of like a side crunch. So that is the 5th exercise. And then number 6 and 7 are push-ups and rows, which are great upper body exercises. So, all right. I have a list of FAQs, but given, I don't know if you guys have any specific questions that I can answer for you. I'd love to do that for you right now.
I think everyone knows what a push-up is, but maybe not everyone knows what a row is. Could you just do a demo quickly?
A row, yes, let me just grab. So row, you'll probably need some sort of resistance for this, or bands. So if I have a dumbbell resistance, and I'm going to take a stance where I have gravity basically pulling it towards the floor, and I'm basically bringing the weight up towards the ceiling. So I'm using my back muscles to create that action. Whereas if I had tubing, then I might attach it to like a door, and then so the action is the same. I'm bringing my hands in towards me, but the resistance is just in front of me. Whereas with gravity, since gravity goes this way, I'll have to do it in this manner. Another back exercise is a chin-up, but not everyone has a chin-up bar. I don't. And chin-ups they're challenging exercises to do. Yeah. Any questions?
I do have more questions.
Okay.
So so we're talking about kind of stabilization exercises like the clamshell and the side plank, for example. Mm-hmm. Why would you say that, thinking about running being kind of such a forward movement, why would you say a stabilization exercise is so important for a runner?
So basically we're looking at efficiency of movement, right? So if I'm trying to go from A to B, I really want to try and keep it in this forward direction, right? Whereas for 10K, imagine what 10K is about, a little over an hour to an hour and a half, depends on your running. And now you're doing this the whole time. Some people run like this and they're like, yeah, I'm really enjoying my music. So now we've got overuse happening in this area. That's where IT band issues, right? So if my knees aren't stable and I'm running and I got like one wanky, janky knee here, I mean, no, people don't actually run like this, but if next time you're at a cafe or just on the seawall, just kind of watch the type of runners that you'll see, and you'll just sort of look at someone and you're gonna think, wow, you're gonna have a knee issue or an ankle issue, and if they do this sort of, flick thing with their leg. Or I knew a runner who, he'd do half marathon, but he would run like this, and I was like, dude, your neck. Like I just like 4 hours, right? And it wasn't him going to music. I think it was just he would collapse through part of his body, so it wasn't stable. So then his head is trying to maintain the horizon, right? So it was just this issue sort of just carried up the chain. So I wouldn't be surprised if he saw a chiro very frequently just to maintain sort of those joints in alignment. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Yep.
So would you recommend doing these strength exercises on a separate day to running as a separate workout, or would you incorporate it as part of a warm-up before running?
I would say if your schedule allows, separate days would be great, because then you can put all of your attention into good technique with the training and then good technique with the running. If that's impossible, like you just don't have the time to do every single day of some sort of exercise, you can put them both on the same day. Put running first. Because right now, my assumption is your goal is to become a better runner, right? So the strength training should support your running goals as opposed to being the focus of it. And then your running suffers.
Would some of the exercises, like not the stabilization exercises, not be beneficial before the run as well?
You can. I think the question here, the answer, how I would answer this depends on if there's a little bit about, do you have an issue, right? Not everyone has stability issues. Right. So if you're running with a partner and they're watching you and you're a fairly stable person, then I'd say it doesn't matter. But if we're seeing, like, maybe you go to your physio and you're just like, yeah, I kind of got this back thing. And they look at you and they're like, ugh, you need to work on this. Then I might, in that case, say, this should go first. Focus on this and then follow it up with the run. But if you're learning to run 10K as an example, and you're just getting back into running or you're new to it, this isn't a make or break, like the order of it isn't a make or break deal. Whereas if you said, okay, I've got a half marathon or a marathon and I need this time, like this is very important to me, then there would be a much more detailed structure on when you should do this exercise, when is your run, are you peaking, right? When are you tapering? And so you could go super crazy on it, but for learning to run 10K and new to it, you'll be fine if you do it before or after, actually.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Now I have time. It's 6:30, but if you guys are like, no, we have lives. I don't want to listen to you all night. Then I'll make sure that I honor your time and let you guys go. But if you do have questions, like I said, I love this stuff. I am so happy to help out. Let's see if I can spell my email address. So, like I said, I'm happy to continue to stay on a little bit longer if anyone needs, or feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to plug in and chat and all that good stuff.
Do you have some notes that maybe I can share with the participants?
I can make them official and type them up for you. I'm a color person, so I like to do things super with like bright Sharpies and stuff. But yeah, I can summarize all of those and put them into a document for you.
Right. So what I'll do is we'll post the video that we recorded. We'll post that in the newsletter that we send out at the end of the week, and then there will be some notes along with that for people
Sounds good.
Have a look at.
Yeah, love it. Give you guys a tour of my office while I'm figuring this out here. Awesome.
Right. If no one else has any questions?
These guys are pros. They don't need me. You guys are like, nah, I could have taught that.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Yeah, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
next time.
you.
Guys, good night.
Bye.